Well, I mentioned my third book earlier. It's called Drive All Day because I'm too old to drive all night. That's what the cover's going to look like. And it's a memoir, and so it's a collection of stories from the road. I also have chapters about women's music festivals. I talk about my students. And I thought I'd read you one of the short chapters. This is called A Scofflaw Her Kittens. Some years ago, a friend sent me irises. She grows rare and antique varieties, and I thought I'd enjoy them. They went into my yard in Durham, North Carolina. After a year, they bloomed in rich purple, delicate pink, and creamy white. When I went through a divorce and lost the house, I didn't want to leave those lovely flowers, so I dug up several and put them in pots. My new apartment had a rooftop patio. They did fairly well there, although there weren't many blooms. A year later, I was able to buy my own home. The irises came with me, and they thrived in my garden. 5 years later, I moved again, this time to Canada. I hated to leave the flowers, but it was against the law to transport live plants across the border. Every year when I visited Durham, I'd stalk my old house. It's in Northgate Park. I'll give you the address if you want. You can just drive by and see if it's okay. And I always noted that the irises were still doing well. I missed them, so I did something that made me shake in my boots. I talked with the present owner and asked if I could take a few irises, thoughtfully pointed out that they needed to be thinned anyway. He said yes, and thus the shaking began because I had to sneak them over the border. I'm even a little nervous writing that. Is there a statute of limitations for plant smuggling? With the irises in a plastic grocery bag and stuffed in the back of my car, I nonchalantly told the border official that I didn't buy anything in the U.S. except for that bag of M&Ms sitting in the seat beside me. Here's where being a white woman with gray hair comes in handy. He didn't notice the sweat pooling under my armpits and simply nodded and waved me through. Not long ago, I told the Canadian who filmed some videos for me that I had done this. He laughed and said he crossed the border a lot and they always searched his van. A young guy with a van full of video equipment is always going to be suspect. He nodded sagely when I told him it would be a lot worse if he was black. When I got home, I was afraid to plant them in the yard. With winter temps below freezing for days in a row, I didn't think those delicate flowers would make it. So I planted them in pots, bringing them inside during the coldest months. Their leaves never got very green, and the plants grew little. One tiny pale pink flower emerged the next year, but that was it. There was a sunny spot in our backyard where my elderly cat liked to lay. When I had to put her to sleep, I thought that was the perfect spot to put her ashes. I added the ashes of 2 other cats I'd carried around for several years. They needed something beautiful in that spot, so I decided to take a chance and put the irises there. I'd seen the neighbors with irises in their yard, so maybe they do okay with the harsh weather after all. I carefully watered them, but there were no blooms that year. The next year, in late May, I left on my annual trip to North Carolina. 1 week after that, I got an email and a photo from my wife. "Look at this," she wrote, and under the note was a photo of that spot with a burst of pale pink flowers. I'd lost touch with the friend who had given me the irises years before. I tracked her down on Facebook. I told her about the blooms and included the photo. "Oh," she responded, "those are called pink kittens." Despite having other colors in that original batch she'd sent, only the pink ones bloomed. Every year in early June, they bloom. It hurt my heart when we sold the house, a place I lived for 10 years. I left my cat's ashes there. The pink kittens will watch over them. Thanks. So a lot of the stories have to do with music, but some of them don't, like that one.